Tonight I'm interviewing Danny Carr, who's been in Group 1 support team. So if you haven't ridden with Danny, then you've missed a great opportunity. Danny's done about 5 years worth of boot camps with us, and he's been previous National Masters champion several times, winner of Tour of Bright several times, winner of Borbor. I saw Danny's Borbor race one year. He went at the 40 Ks into the race, rode solo for the rest of the race, creamed it. So, sorry, Danny.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. That was a good one.
So Danny, how long have you been cycling for?
I started 15 or 16 years old, probably. I always rode to school and cycled, but then a good friend of mine took me out to some races early on. And he was another skater. I actually came from a skating background, and cycling was always like a cross-training sport in the early days. But I've always enjoyed the racing and kept on doing it right up till now.
You say you've got a skating background. I know a bit more about that. Danny's actually represented Australia 3 times in the Winter Olympics as a speed skater. So, so can you tell us about that experience?
It's a bit more complicated. I started early, 5 years old. I started skating, ice skating, and went to the ice rink as a 50th year birthday present. I kept going back every year or every week to chase my cousins around, and then got to see the speed skating at the rink. Joined in with that, joined the club. I'm from Adelaide originally, and it's not really a big skating community or anything, but we had a strong little club. I sort of progressed through the ranks very quickly, and at 15 years old, I won the Australian Championships for senior, which was, unheard of. People, it was all the old, 18 to 19, 20-year-olds, and I was this little tiny kid that could skate fast and ended up winning. So they put me on the national team, sent me to Japan at the tender age of 15, and all of a sudden I was racing internationally at 15 years old. They put me in as reserve because I was not really experienced at anything, and I didn't actually skate the World Championships that year, but I was the fastest skater in the Australian team. So they had to put me in the relay, and we actually won the relay. If you've seen the short track skating on TV lately, that's what it was, the same as Stephen Bradbury did. So, and we skated the relay and we got second. So all of a sudden I was ranked second in the world at 15 years old.
Awesome.
Next year I went back to the World Championships, and in the individual events, and I was 3rd in the 1500, 4th in the 3000, and 6th overall over the 4 distances. So I had a really good future in short track, but the problem was that short track was not an Olympic sport back then, and to get to the Olympics, which is what I really wanted to do, I had to go long track. Now long track's the one on the 400 metre track where the 2 guys skate together and swap sides, and it's a bigger, back then it was a bigger stage and a lot more competitive. So it took me 4 or 5 years to get up through the ranks in long track. And you see on TV, you see the Dutch Norwegians, they're massive, they're big guys, their legs like this. I used to have bigger legs, but and I was probably the smallest guy out there. But coming through from a short track background, I had a very good technique, and that was one thing that I really worked on, to have probably one of the best techniques there, because it is a very technical sport. And I got to the Olympics, got a 10th place, came back 4 years later, got a 12th in the 10 kilometre, but that was in Albertville, which was outside, and at that time the rinks were all going inside, and that suited me because the big guys could push through the wind a lot better than I could. I'd just get blown and stopped in the wind. So the indoor rinks suited me really well. Albertville happened to be outside. I still got 12th in the 10 kilometre, so I was the longer, middle to long distance. And then I wanted to give one more Olympics and really give it a good go. Actually, 91 was probably my best season. I couldn't put a foot wrong. I was training really well, skating really well. Got 6th at the World Championships, 6th and 7th in 2 different distances. So, you know, I was on the cusp of sort of where a medals sort of territory is. And so the next year, upped the training again a bit more and blew it. Overtrained, went on a slippery slope and actually really had a hard time. So, you know, sport has its ups and downs. I had some great times, travelled the world many times. I actually did 8 seasons overseas in Europe, and I'd have a winter in Europe, come back for a winter at home. So I had 16 winters in a row going back and forth. So I hate winter.
So the cyclist chased the summer.
Yeah, and then I was chasing the winter. So, but got to skate at some great places and really have a great time. And cycling-wise, I always trained and raced in the off-season. Enjoyed it. I was from Adelaide, like I said, and so in the era of Stuart O'Grady when he was coming through. He was a few years younger than me, so he was a junior as I was racing him. But always enjoyed cycling and still do. And I'd still go back and skate now. My kids skate, and they're 13 and 14 years old and sort of progressing up the ranks too. So it should be interesting to see where they go. But it's hard it's hard having a parent that skated. Everyone compares them to what I was doing back then too. So that actually makes it hard.
Because they're almost at the age when you won nationals too. So yeah. So, so Danny, you're riding on a masters team, and you work full time as an engineer. And Danny's also got a family. He's got 2 teenage boys that he just mentioned. He's also got 2 international students, boys that live with him. So you've got 4 boys under 16 in the house.
4 teenagers. Yeah.
So how do you find time to train? I mean, you race at such a high level and achieve great results. So how do you do it?
It's time management. I really, probably the first thing I do at the start of the year is sit down with my wife and go through the calendar and say, look, I'd like to do that one, I'd like to do that one, how about this one? And I think David says it quite often, to get that sort of buy-in from the people around you. And I'm really lucky. My wife also cycles. She used to skate and cycles as well. She still races criteriums. My kids they sort of had a bit of time off. They raced for a little bit and then they've just started coming back to it just recently. So she understands what's entailed in cycling and why I like it and why she does as well. So it's just important to get that buy-in. We have got a crazy household. If you come around, it's just non-stop.
And Atom.
And the dog. But I guess it's time management. I mean, I usually get most of my training done early, sort of 5 o'clock. I'm off out on the bike, and you know, there's other guys on the Charter Mason team in the same boat as me, and busy lives, and so we all get out, we do what we've got to do. We do Saturdays as well early, just so we can get the riding over and get back and do the family stuff that you know you have to do. I do sacrifice some things. Last week we raced at Tour South East, and I raced the Saturday and drove back that night because my son was playing in a piano concert. So. At Rip and Lee on a grand piano, so I just couldn't miss that. So, you know, cycling takes a back seat sometimes, but there's particular races that I really target during the year and work towards, and usually it comes off well. Or
so, how many hours a week do you train on, hours or kilometres?
Kilometres usually. Average is 450 or so during the crit season. just because you're racing quite a lot and you get a lot of intensity there. During the winter and more longer road races would be up the 600 odd mark.
That's taking the Warney training out.
Warney's a different story. To race the Warrnambool, Melbourne Warrnambool, used to be 300 kilometres, now it's 265. You can race it, you can finish it, but to actually race it and race with the front guys, that takes a big effort. And the last 2 years I haven't done it. But there's some 800k weeks that need to be done in that lead up. So that's a lot of time on the bike and over winter in the dark. So the last 2 years I just haven't. I did 3 years where I really targeted it and sort of gave it a good shot. But the last 2 years I haven't done it. I'm thinking I'm going to do it again this year.
Not too old?
No.
So what would you describe as your greatest cycling achievement?
That ball race that you saw I enjoyed that. It's great when you plan something, really put your neck out and it pays off. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But you sort of have to give it a go and really try. And that one, like you said, got away at 40 k's and soloed the rest of the way. That was the.
How many was in the bunch? About 80. It was a big bunch.
Yeah, it was 60 odd. You were in there, were you? And sometimes the unexpected too is something that I like, trying something like that. I did place in the Melbourne Warrnambool 8th when Reece Pollock won it. Actually, the guy who's been driving the Support 2 car, he actually won it 4 years ago. So that was a big another goal that I'd set and really happy with how that turned out. Tour of Bright's always a great race to go well in, and I did win a Tour of Thailand race back in a while ago now, when I was living in Singapore. I lived in Singapore for 5 years and trained and raced there.
So your family do a bit of racing, but do you train together or do any family trips or anything to kind of get them involved in?
Just recently, the boys have gotten more into the cycling, and they did Great Vic bike ride. I didn't race. I had a broken leg as well. That's another story. But
Danny commuted to work with a leg in plaster or ankle in plaster.
I come off a motorbike, which is my own fault. But I actually wasn't going to race Tour of Bright this year. Again, another family thing where the kids want to do the Great Vic bike ride, which is 9 days, for those who aren't from Victoria, 9 days of camping and riding 600 odd kilometres, which for them is a huge achievement. And I set myself aside, my wife and I and the kids all did that together. So that was a great experience. Although, if you ask my wife, she wasn't really that happy because I had to work the Friday. We caught the train to Warrnambool and then rode across to the South Australian border to Nelson, into a roaring headwind and rain. So me on the front, my wife tagged on behind. So she doesn't remember that as a very good ride at all.
But you spent quite a bit of time with McKinnon College where your boys go out, taking the boys out for like groups out for regular rides and stuff, leaning into it too.
Yeah, that's right.
So do you do much mentoring with junior athletes or anything?
No, not formally and not a lot. Although part of the Charter Mason team, we've got a masters team and then the NRS guys that we've seen up here. And what Charter Mason have done is tried to mentor each rider has a specific mentor, and I'm actually keen to get involved because one of the guys that I'm the mentor for is Dan Fitter up in Queensland, and he's a young guy, keen. He's just made the Track Worlds Championships, and I'm really keen to just get in touch with him and talk to him and share some of my experiences, because I went through exactly the same sort of thing, someone who's all of a sudden thrust onto the world stage, and there's a lot of think I can give to those.
And he's just got second. Dan's just got second in the Oceanus
so
over the weekend.
He's on fire at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to get involved in that.
Yeah. Cool. So what's the secret to success, Danny?
Oh, that's a hard one to answer. Like I said before, it's really planning what you want to do. Some people write it down. It's really good to write things down and set your goals on what you want to do. Probably, you say...
Bit of natural talent.
Yeah, there is natural talent. Lucky I've got a good engine that sort of goes well. But, it's come from a lot of hard training over years and years of back in the skating days and even now, I still train hard and enjoy it. As long as I keep enjoying it, I'll keep on doing it. I think being involved in a really good club or group of guys that have similar goals really helps for yourself to achieve your similar goals. You sort of feed off each other, and it's really good.
Thank you. That's all I had for Danny. Has anyone else got some questions that they'd like to ask Danny?
What's a typical week involve? So when you're not racing, you don't have any racing, it's just a training week. You mentioned you get up at 5 in the morning. Is that every single morning, or do you have rest days? How long do you go?
Yeah, not every morning. I'm lucky I don't need that much sleep. My wife is always telling me she hates it, but it depends on work as well. I mean, I've got a lot on at work sometimes, and your head's got to be in the right space to be able to train hard and then be effective at work as well. I have regular days where I do certain things. So I've been doing a bit of motor pacing with Ollie, generally on a Tuesday morning, and that's a good, hard, intensive workout. I have been doing a long Wednesday loop down to Mount Eliza, although I've just got onto a new project and they've scheduled these 8 o'clock morning meetings, so that's just put a spanner in that one.
For North Road?
For the North Road bunch, yeah. So I haven't done that in the last sort of month or so. But I do get out a lot myself as well. I find I probably train more by myself than with a bunch. And I've always sort of done that as well. I find just laps of the bully, or where you've got a certain time circuit that you sort of see yourself improving on as well. That I find really good. Yeah. Yeah, I was just talking to a couple of people today. I've actually had a good, with some touch wood, I've had a good run lately without sort of crashing. With experience, you do know when things are looking suspect in a bunch and know how to have an escape route out of that. And that comes with experience. Although sometimes there was 2 or 3 years ago, I went through a stage where I fell off 3 times in 4 weeks, and all on the left side, so I'd just start to heal and then take all the scabs off again. I've actually been lucky really in injuries with skating and with riding, not to have many at all. I sort of broke my arm in ice hockey, shoulder, and then I broke my leg falling off a motorbike, but that was my own fault. So I generally had, body's still quite good. Lucky not being in an impact sport like runners or people that come to cycling because they've got so many injuries usually. I've been in a low sort of stress or low impact sport for all my life, so actually still going pretty well. So yeah.
Danny, busy schedule, particularly after I was training on the thing that seems to suffer is nutrition. Having time to cook the right meals. How's that go for you? Do you pay much attention to that? Or
I did more, I suppose, when I was skating and training sort of at an international level to eat really healthily. I'm not one of these people that sort of counts my meals or tries to get to a certain weight, really. That sort of comes naturally. But our family just eats healthily. We don't have that much junk food in the cupboard.
You brought chips over to our place the other day.
Yeah, we did. So no, I don't consciously weigh my food and sort of do it like that, but just have a healthy diet, really. That's all that I find works for me. I'm sort of a bit old school in a lot of ways in regards to things like that, so I don't pay that much attention to them a lot of the time.
Mate, how does that translate to the type of food or things you take out on the ride? So, you come up to a different sport and you're a hardcore cyclist, congratulations. But go out for a ride, are you a peanut butter and jam man or are you a bun man?
No, I generally training rides I'll just eat muesli bars and peanut butter and jam sandwiches, but leading up to races I'll use gels and power bars and a hydrolyte drink sort of thing. And leading up to those races I'll make sure I'm eating those foods during training so my body's used to taking those in. And that's important to not change what you're eating on the day and be really used to what your body needs and how it takes it in. Yeah.
Thanks, Denny.
No problem.